You know, if Hamas hadn't started this whole thing, Operation Cast Lead, excuse me, you probably have no idea what that is. Yeah, well, there's probably things you don't know either. In December of 2008, Israeli Defense Forces invaded Gaza in an all-out raid, and for 3 weeks they wreaked havoc and destruction on the civilian population, in what is formerly known by Israeli strategic planners and the Israeli army as disproportionate violence. Operation Cast Lead killed 1,400 Palestinians, 1,200 were civilians, 350 were children. By contrast, the invading Israelis suffered 13 losses, and 4 of those were from friendly fire. The kill ratio between Palestinians and Israelis was 108 to 1. That is not a war. That is a massacre. Oh my God, so you're anti-Semitic. I am anti-apartheid. This has nothing to do with Judaism. For you to frame it as such is irresponsible. 6,300 homes were destroyed. 600,000 tons of rubble. The UN subsequently commissioned an investigation headed by the distinguished South African jurist Richard Goldstone in what became known as the famous Goldstone Report. In the report, he says, and I quote, that Operation Cast Lead was a deliberately disproportionate attack designed to punish, humiliate, and terrorize the civilian population. I gotta go, I'm late for brunch. Wait, I haven't even talked about Operation Protective Edge.
What kind of sick person finds laughter and enjoyment in a mother holding their child as their last breath goes? Again, I have to say, when I was a kid, I couldn't understand how the Holocaust could happen. How could so many people turn a blind eye? And now it's not a blind eye, it's like pure happiness from watching someone lose everything. Your ancestors were persecuted in Europe. Why do you find enjoyment in this? Do you not have any empathy?
Tonight, audio and photographic analysis sheds new light on what happened. First, the audio analysis. This comes from a consortium of prominent NGOs specializing in human rights investigations. First, Doppler effect sound analysis of the missile tracking to the hospital that night. That analysis produced this mapping. The red line is where the Israelis said the missile was fired from by, they say, Islamic Jihad from within southwestern Gaza. But this new Doppler sound mapping analysis concludes that the missile came from a variety of possible firing points, the blue arrows, all east of the hospital, not west, as the IDF claimed. The second aspect examined is the tape released by the Israeli Defense Forces. The IDF says it is 2 Hamas operatives discussing how an Islamic Jihad missile fired from in Gaza malfunctioned, causing the hospital explosion. 2 nights ago, we reported that Arab-speaking experts raised questions about the tone and language of this tape. This recording is made up of 2 separate channels and demonstrates that these 2 voices have been recorded independently. These 2 independent recordings have then been edited together in a digital audio workstation. Though this audio analysis cannot categorically state that the audible dialogue is fake, we can say that the level of manipulation required to edit these 2 voices together disqualifies it as a source of credible evidence. Earshot's opinion is that this recording does not meet the standard required for evidence and should not be used by the media without the clear caveat that it has been digitally manipulated. We turn now to the image analysis carried out by Forensic Architecture at London University. Those radial fragmentation marks open towards the southwest, with a shallow channel leading to the crater from the northeast. Their conclusion matches the audio analysis of the missile track. They say whatever hit the hospital car park that night was fired from the northeast and not from the southwest of Gaza, as the Israeli Defense Forces claim.
Palestine was not an empty piece of land before Israel. It was a country. Generations of families lived there. They had hopes, dreams, futures, and businesses. They had airports and transportation. They had streets, cities, culture, architecture, and art. They had schools and colleges. The world ignorantly thinks that Palestine was empty and completely undeveloped until it was invaded by Israel in 1948. These historical videos from 1930 to 1940 shows us that not only Palestine was beautiful, but it was highly developed for its time. Share it so that the world, including Muslims, would know the truth about Palestine's beauty and development before occupation.
In 2010, I graduated from law school as a freshly minted human rights attorney. I visited my sister in her home in Beit Omar, which is a village in Hebron. Sitting atop a hill, their beautiful home was surrounded by 3 Israeli settlements. I woke up in the middle of the night with my nephew and brother-in-law standing next to me. They'd spotted several laser pointers pointing into the house from one of the settlements that are nearby, and when I asked them what was happening, they told me to stay lying in bed because this was often a game that settlers played with them. The quote game was laser pointers from sniper rifles in the house at all times, so that they knew that they could take a shot whenever they wanted. That same night, a group of young Israeli soldiers came into the house, took all of the men outside, and trapped all of the women and children inside of the house. They lined us all up on our knees next to a wall with our hands behind our back. And then after a while, they escorted the women and children out of the house and they took over it. Their house was in an incredibly strategic position where they could see the entire village, and the Israeli soldiers decided, since they were looking for somebody, that they would conveniently just commandeer the house and harass and abuse all of us in the process. I could overhear my sister begging one of the soldiers to go into the house and get my niece's bottle so that she would calm down and not be terrified. As I turned to look to see what was happening, I noticed the soldier raising his hand to strike my sister. I honestly didn't think, I just reacted, and I charged him. After tackling the soldier down, I was taken to the garden nearby by myself and put down on my knees. He commanded that I open my mouth and proceeded to shove his semi-automatic weapon all the way down my throat to the point where I was gagging. I could feel the bile rising up from my stomach, and I could taste the gunpowder and metal coating my throat. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If you think your language skills or passport are gonna save you, we own you and your country." He even said that, "By the tone of your voice, I can tell that you're actually enjoying this." It was by the grace of God and his commanding officer that I didn't die that night, but I think about it every day. I can't count the number of times I've had to defend my humanity, my right to live, to exist, to be. And despite being an attorney, despite speaking 3 languages, despite traveling the entire world and being an incredibly, intentionally kind person, my life meant nothing to them.
Make sure that none of that is funded. As Rashida Tlaib has I don't even want to call it the Palestinian flag because they're not a state, they're a territory that's about to probably get eviscerated and go away here shortly, as we're going to turn that into a parking lot. But I've made it my mission to target anti-Semites. We went after Ilhan Omar with HR 76 to remove her off the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
And people ask me all the time why I don't support Zionism, the state of Israel, apartheid, and the genocide that is being committed by them. And this is why. Because make no mistake, Zionism and white supremacy are birds of a feather and they're flocking together. And as a Puerto Rican, that is why I support the people of Palestine. Because I am a territory like them. But this is how these people see us. They see us as savages. It's sad and infuriating. Always read the fine print and always remember that. Remember who these people are and what they're doing. Because if you're not on the right side of history, you're going to fucking regret it forever. Que tenga buen día.
White folk, where'd y'all go? Where y'all at? 6 days ago, y'all were out here on social media blasting, guns a-blazing, I stand with Israel. You have to stand up for civilian lives. Okay, if that's your vibe, okay. But now that Palestinian civilians are being killed, we're at 3,000 now. Over 1,000 children slaughtered by the Israeli military. Where y'all at? Where's your condolences? Where are your prayers? Where's all that talk about peace and love? All I'm getting is radio silence. If you're gonna chime in on this conversation about the Israeli occupation of Palestine and make these bold stances, then be about it. Be about your stance. Say with your chest. Be about your words. Act on it. Because the reality is, you're not about it. You're not about actual peace and love. You're not about protecting civilians. You're about protecting white civilians. When it's your fellow white people dying, y'all are screaming at the top of your lungs. But as soon as it's brown people dying, y'all gotta cough. Can't speak. By opening your mouth last week, but keeping your mouth shut this week, you're proving that you're a racist. You're proving your allegiance to white supremacy. You're literally proving our beliefs to be true. That this is how you are. This is how you act and navigate the world. That when white people are dying, it's a humanitarian issue. And everybody has to speak up. Like with these Zionist settlers or with Ukrainians. But as soon as it's a brown person dying, it's too political. We can't talk about this. It's too much. It's too complicated. It wasn't complicated last week when you were blabbing your mouth on social media. We've been knowing this is how you are, and you're just proving it to be true. And you continue to prove that it's true time and time again. You even just addressing last week was proof enough. Y'all had nothing to say the countless times Israel bombed and decimated Gaza, and Gaza had to rebuild itself after thousands of people being killed. Y'all had nothing to say. Then when the Palestinians go on offense, then it's time for your prayers and your thoughts. Time for you to stand up. I thought maybe this is a turning point. Maybe now white America is going to change. They said that they're all about peace and protecting civilians. Maybe now they'll actually stand up for Palestinian lives. Nope. Every celebrity, influencer, politician was all of a sudden an expert, an analyst in the occupation of Palestine. Now that the Palestinians are dying in the thousands, it's too complicated. I should probably keep quiet. Oh, really? But last week you didn't want to keep quiet because it was white people dying. And I don't want people to mistake why I make these kind of videos where I call out white people on their crap. It's not because we're pleading and needing the white world to save us. Absolutely not. But as a minority, born and raised in the States, I've lived here my entire life. I know how the white world works. This is the exact same narrative that I grew up around, where white lives matter, but brown lives don't. If it's a Palestinian, an Arab, it's a terrorist. If it's a Mexican, it's an illegal immigrant. If it's a black person, a drug dealer, a thug, they're being killed, it doesn't matter because these are violent people. These are barbarians. So now that we have social media and we have platforms that we can vocalize, we're gonna call y'all out. Because God knows we would have never been given the mic or the opportunity to speak if the mic belonged to them. It's only because of social media we're allowed to talk about this. And now we have a mic that we can talk through. White folk, people are literally dying in the thousands. Your racism is showing.
מי שרוצה להזדהות עם עזה מוזמן, אני אעלה אותו על האוטובוסים עכשיו שמפנים לשם. עכשיו לחימה, מבחינתנו הנחיות הן חד משמעיות, אפס סובלנות לכל אירוע, לא הסתה, לא של האחות, לא של הרופא, לא של הזמרת. אין אישור לביצוע מחאות, והמחוז פה הוכיח שהוא עושה את זה ביד רמה. אנחנו לא במצב עכשיו להתחיל לתת לכל מיני כאלה לבוא להתעסק איתנו, כלומר רף הטיפול בנושא של אפס סובלנות, למי שרוצה להיות אזרח מדינת ישראל, אהלן וסהלן. מי שרוצה להזדהות עם עזה מוזמן, אני אעלה אותו על האוטובוסים עכשיו שמפנים לשם, ואני אעזור לו להגיע לשם.
قطع النت عندي بدري، فاليوم بفتح النت وتفاجأت إنه أصحابي نصهم استشهدوا والاستديو تبعي راح وبيتنا راح. الحمد لله يعني، والله يرحم الشهداء. مش أحكي بصراحة، يعني لا بيت لا شغل لا أصحاب ولا إشي ولا إشي. فعليا إحنا حاليا ولا إشي. مش عارف شو أحكي. الله يرحم الشهداء والله يعوضنا إذا طلعنا أحياء. الناس بحطوا زي هيك بالضبط. رحمة الله على الشهداء. هذه مقبرة البطش، هذول كلهم جداد.
Is Israel not allowed to defend itself from the worst terror attack since 9/11? If their mission now is to get rid of Hamas, then what they are doing is consistent with that, isn't it?
No, you said Israel has a right to defend itself. Absolutely zero people think that this is a ridiculous statement. However, how Israel is defending itself is collective punishment. Collective punishment in the form of depriving 2.2 million people of electricity, of water, of food, 51 people dying in the West Bank where, there is no Hamas in the West Bank, killing 3,480 Palestinians so far in Gaza, 1,000 plus children, 22 hospitals being bombed. These are horrifying crimes that you would openly say are horrifying and unjustifiable when Russia does it, but when Israel does it, Israel has a right to defend itself. This is identical to the same talking points that I've heard from every Israeli administration official. It's the same thing that I've heard from everyone else in the media. You might have been against the Iraq war, but you're using that for evil, in my opinion, at this point, if you are not sitting here and condemning those war crimes, those acts of violence, those acts of collective punishment.
I'm calling on all the people of good conscience to heed the Palestinian demands. Do not stop making noise to end this genocide. We are working against decades-long ideological warfare, so every voice on your phones, in the streets, on the desks of Congress, are vital to the end of this genocide and the liberation of the Palestinian people. Our tax dollars are paying for this, and therefore we are complicit and responsible to end this now. As you're protesting, posting, and taking action, make it about you. Because this is about you. This is about all of us. Because our job is to foster a world that's worth living in. If we are living in a world where we allow genocide to happen, then none of us are safe. Every single one of us has an important role to play from our own perspective in this world. Get creative and speak from where you are standing right now. For example, if you're a filmmaker, the Palestine Film Institute just released a whole bunch of movies for free on their website. Host a Palestinian film festival. If you're a teacher, organize at your school. Today, there are people protesting all over the world. Hit the streets and keep posting on social media. It is not performative to post about ending a genocide. There are so many of us. We have all the power. Do not let the media fool you. We can do this. We are doing this.
My name is Aiden Basiso and I'm 10 years old and I'm from America. I came to Gaza because my grandpa, because of his work, and we wanted to come to cheer him up, and I actually liked Gaza, so I stayed here for more than 2 months, so I stayed for a year. Then my passport got expired, but the American embassy didn't help us. They said they could only help Israel, only people in Israel, and that makes us sad. And then we were gonna go out of Gaza, but the Israelis, they bombed the borders when we were there. Then we went home safely. Then 10 minutes later, we had to evacuate our house because they said they're gonna bomb the house right next to us. And then the streets are like flipped. The houses are all on the floor. So we didn't have no choice just to go to my neighbor's house. And then now we're here. We came here for 4 days and still nothing hasn't opened. Aiden Basiso.
Israel is not abiding by international law, humanitarian law, or the law of wars, as you put it. There are 3,000 Palestinian deaths, many more people missing under the rubble. We have witnessed with our own eyes collective punishment, the targeting of civilian infrastructure, no water, no medicines, no food, and an increased level of desperation. We have seen, and Israel openly called for, forced transfer of the population in the clear sight of the international community. So I appreciate absolutely the need to condemn the horror that was visited on Israel and the killing of those civilians and taking of hostages. But I cannot understand or accept your failure to condemn the Israeli onslaught on a refugee population hemmed in what has been described as the world's largest open-air prison, an impoverished refugee population. The answer to this is peace. The answer to this is a ceasefire, not a humanitarian pause, not a de-escalation, a ceasefire, Taoiseach. And I ask you again to make that call and take that message to the European Union.
Thank you.